We are joined today by our incredible product leader, Kim. She is going to go through what's new in CourtReserve. You'll see a little bit of what we've done late fall or late summer, early fall. And don't forget that we're going to record this and it'll be on YouTube early next week for all of your other staff members who have missed it. Thanks so much for joining us, and we're going to go ahead and let Kim get started.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. So everything that we're going to go over is from the release that we had at the end of August. So everything that here either went live on the 29th or in the few days after. We did also announce the leagues and the Duper integration early September. So we'll touch on that a little bit in this webinar too. So let's get started. So first, we'll go through just a couple of the smaller things that we did in the release. And as you have questions, just go ahead and post them in the chat, and we'll pause throughout and get some of those questions answered. But the first thing that we covered in the release this month was we added the reason for the decline in your declined members list. So within your organization, if you are approving members and then you have a member that's declined, we actually didn't show that reason anywhere if you were to look at your declined members list. So if you're on the to-do list and you have members to review, you can view your declined members, and now you have a declined reasons here in the column here. And so you can see in your history why maybe you had declined this member. In the cancellation report, we've updated it a lot actually to provide more information around what information you can actually pull from this report. So the first thing we did here was we added a closure type. So if you are running this cancellation report and trying to pull information on closures, let's say weather, you can actually do that now with this report. So another thing we did is we added this checkbox here for group reservations by member. This is a feature that we have in another report. And so if you uncheck this box, it's actually going to break every player into a different line on the report. So instead of showing you one line with every player that was in that reservation on the report, it's going to break that reservation or that event down by each player. So if you uncheck this box, you're going to get, so there's my closure types, group reservations by member, and then if you uncheck this box, you're going to reveal some additional outputs here. So you can give the output of player name, player email, player number, the paid amount that they paid for this event for reservation, and then also the refund amount. So you can actually use this report to calculate how much you're giving back on, like, if you have a weather closure and you give people refunds and balance credits and things like that, you can now use this report for that. The next thing we've updated, so previously what we did here is we made an update to what you can do with events that have a $0 pricing. So previously, if you had somebody that you had in an event and the price was $0, so it was free, you didn't have a way to edit that pricing. If you made a mistake and made it override at $0, the only way to fix it was to actually unregister the player and re-register them. So what we've done is we've given you that edit pencil next to $0 registrations. So you can go ahead and you can update that pricing if you make a mistake, but you don't have to unregister them and re-register them again in order to update that pricing. We've also added an ineligible for events tag to our event registration process. So whether you're dropping somebody in for an event or you are registering them for a full event, you're now going to see this ineligible tag here if the player is not meeting the event restriction requirements that you have set for the event. We've also added a permission for sub-admins that will not allow them to register against this restriction. So it's similar to what we have on the reservation side, but now we have it for events. So if you want a sub-admin to not be allowed to register a player against event restrictions, you can do that. And then you can also see just when you're registering this player, why they may not meet those ineligible or those reasons, or I'm sorry, the registration restrictions. So as you can see here, I've clicked this ineligible tag here. I get the pop-up modal like I get for the reservations, and it says the player doesn't meet the restriction because the requirement has these ratings behind it. So this player doesn't have the appropriate rating. So keep that in mind as a feature. You can now see why a player may not meet those restrictions. All right. And then we have some updates on the instructor schedule. Tim, I did want to pause here and see if there were any questions because I do have a few things to update about instructor schedule.
Yes, we had one. Val asked, are event and eligibility reasons visible to players?
No, so it's not going to be a tag that the player is going to see on their side. This is only an admin facing tag, but the player is going to see what the restrictions are for the event. And if they go ahead and try and register for the event anyway, it's going to prevent them from registering just like it's always done. And they won't be able to register the event. They'll just get an error message for why they can't register. So with the instructor schedule updates, we've done a couple things. So the first thing we've done is when you're viewing an instructor schedule, within the filter section that's up in the top right corner, we've added a filter to show canceled reservations due to closures. So previously, if an instructor was looking at their schedule, but a series of lessons or something had gotten rained out and you put a closure on top of them, those lessons completely disappeared from that instructor's schedule. It was very hard to track down where those lessons went sometimes and for people to be able to find them. So we added the same ability here that you already have on your schedulers to make those canceled reservations and events due to closures appear. So now if an instructor goes over to their filter, they show those canceled reservations due to closures, they're going to pop up the same way they do on your regular scheduler with that little canceled in the light colors there to let them know that it was canceled. They can't edit it or anything else anymore because it was canceled, but they can at least see where those canceled lessons were for tracking purposes. Another thing we did on the instructor schedule involves this tag that we have up here in the top right corner. So with the instructor, actually, sorry, let me jump back one. So what we did was we started, we gave the ability now to set an instructor start day of the week. So what I mean by that is we do have some organizations where they calculate their instructor time based on different payroll rules or days of the week than maybe they publish to their members. So by that, I've worked for organizations in the past that calculated their payroll based on a Friday to a Thursday, or they calculate payroll based on a Saturday to a Friday. It makes more sense to show your front side view of your member portal to show maybe a Monday through Sunday or Sunday through Saturday perspective. But for instructors trying to track time, that's difficult because they're always overlapping by a day that's maybe not part of that week, or you're missing a day of your week. So what we did was we gave you, and I don't have a screenshot of this, but under your general settings, next to where you set your start day of the week for your organization, there's a new setting called instructor start day of the week. So what this is going to do is when the instructor looks at their schedule and they're on the weekly view, it's going to show that day of the week as the first day. So if you say Saturday is the start day of my instructor's week, now all of their weekly views are going to start on Saturday. So then what we've done, so we've updated a little bit of the UX, UI, just to be a little bit just more visually friendly here. So when an instructor is looking at their schedule, or you're looking at your instructor's scheduler, you used to have just a one single day button and a one weekly button. And it was kind of hard to understand if you're on a weekly view or a daily view. It just wasn't super easy to just to glance at and know. So now you have this day and weekly toggle. So when you're on the day toggle and it's green, that means you're looking at the day. Or if it's toggled to the weekly view, obviously you're looking at the week and it's green on the week. So that's what this looks like on the actual app itself. You do have a similar view when you're on your actual instructor schedule or your scheduler. And then we've also made the schedule on the app responsive to the rotation of the device. So what I mean by that is when you're taking your phone and you're looking at the instructor's schedule, previously, if you rotated your phone sideways just to see a weekly view, because it's a lot easier to see the weekly view across a pane than it is on the tall portrait mode of the phone, it wasn't rotating. And so it was just hard to scroll through and look through everything. So now when you rotate your phone to the landscape view, you can see more of the week across your screen. And this one I've switched to the weekly view. You'll see you've got the toggle up in the left, and then you've got the date listed over here to the right. So you can easily scroll through now and see more information across the screen. You'll also notice that this organization, I've set the start day of the week to be Saturday. So this instructor is seeing Saturday as the first day of the week when they view the weekly schedule. All right, so we also released a new email template with this release. So this is one that we've had in the works for a while now. We've created a more modern design, clear display of information. And then this is going to be the first part of an email upgrade project that we're working on that will allow the admin eventually to go in and make updates to what these templates actually look like specific to your organization. Right now, every template is built the same for every organization, but you'll have the ability soon here in the future to go in and make some updates to this template if there's additional information you want to include and things like that as well. It's all token based, so we say what you're able to add in here, but you will eventually have some more flexibility to make some of the updates to these templates yourself. So this is what an example of that template looks like. Hopefully you've all have seen it by now. It's a huge upgrade to what we had previously, so we're really excited about this, and just want to say thank you to everybody that has submitted just the small critiques here and there. We did have a couple things that we did have to go in and fix about this, so thank you for that. So we've gone in and we fixed some things with this since the release as well. And then we've also, so all to our Stripe, to our Stripe customers, we have integrated with a Stripe terminal and ACH e-check ability. So what that means is if you're a Stripe customer, we now offer you the ability to purchase this terminal, purchase this terminal through Stripe, and you can process in-person credit card payments through Stripe now. So previously you were only able to process Stripe through just the integrated payment provider online. So you could only take court reservations and things like that online and take those payments online. Now you can take those in-person payments. I do have this terminal in my possession. It's super easy to use and set up. You basically plug it in, discover your terminal, and you're ready to go. So you can take those in-person payments. It works for tap, chip insert, and then there's a swiper on here as well. We also,
sorry, Kim, it also will accept Apple Pay and Google Pay, correct?
Yes. So it does accept anything that does a tap-based payment as well. We've also added ACH and e-check options for creating payment profiles. So if you're a Stripe customer, you will have the ability to do that as well with this. If you want to enable ACH, you just need to make sure, just go into your integrated payments or integrated payment providers settings. There's a whole article set up on how to, in the knowledge base, on how to set this up and everything like that. So just make sure you check that out to make sure that you're able to take those payment methods. All right, so that completes the slide portion of the demo. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen real quick so I can switch gears. Just give me one moment. All right, Tim, can you see my screen again?
I can. It's all good. I'm seeing the Who's Here Today screen.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to pick up here on the Who's Here Today screen. So I wanted to walk everybody through just a live demo of some of the things that we've implemented with checking players in, taking payments, and then some of the things that we've added to the Who's Here Today screen. So with the Who's Here Today screen, we've, first of all, if you're an organization and you are not using check-in statuses, so you're not utilizing the drop-down in check-ins that says this person is checked in, this person was late, this person, for whatever reason you have different statuses there, you're not utilizing that, and you are getting this pop-up window here every single time that you check a player in on the Who's Here Today screen, you can now disable this pop-up window. So in order to do that, you're going to go over here into settings, and you're going to go to check-in statuses. So as you can see, I have advanced check-in statuses disabled. So I'm not choosing the different statuses of players when they check in. Now, if you have it disabled, you have an additional checkbox here to disable the check-in confirmation pop-up. There's no save button here, so this is automatic once you actually turn it on. If you go back to your Who's Here Today screen and you check in a player, now that just automatically changes to check-in. You can toggle the status and revert it back to checked in if you checked in the wrong player, but now it's checking in players just quickly, so you can just go down the list and check players in. You don't have to check that extra step. This is only disabled on the Who's Here Today screen. If you are on your schedulers and you disable that pop-up, it is still going to show up on your schedulers. The next thing, so a couple other things that we did here with the Who's Here Today screen, we added a notes column right here between instructors and amount due. We just are bringing in the notes from the scheduler. So if there's a note you want to make sure your front desk sees when they're checking players in, you don't want to have to rely on them to go to that scheduler. It's presenting those notes to them right here on the line when they check players in. We've also added in the courts column. So the courts column has always been here, but we've kind of gone back and forth about what information to show here. So if you have an event that has more than one court, it was showing as blank in here, and you had to go in here and assign the court to the player. Now what we've done is if it's an event that has more than one court, we're showing you the first court plus how many additional more courts are assigned to the event. So if you don't want to go in and assign the courts to the player, you just want to send them to the first court, you don't actually have to go in and change the assignment in order to send them to a court and know what court they're supposed to go to. So this is going to be the default in here now. You're going to see one court, or sorry, court one plus X additional more that's tied to the event. And then also with Who's Here Today screen, so I'm going to say this around Who's Here Today screen, but this actually ties to pretty much all parts of this places in the platform where you can take payments and check in players. So now within CourtReserve, you can check in and pay out a player's reservation or event when they check in all in the same screen. So what I mean by that is here, when you go pay, now you can see a check-in box here if the player is eligible to check in for the event. So let me show you how to turn this on. You're going to go to General, and then there's a setting in here that says allow admin and sub-admin to check in players on the payment screen. When you enable this setting, there's going to be an hours in advance to allow check-in. So once you set this, it's going to say within 3 hours of my event, I can allow somebody to check in and pay at the same time. So once this setting is enabled, now, like you saw previously, when you're on your Who's Here Today screen or when you're on your scheduler, you can check in your players at the same time that they are paying, they're paying for the event. If they come in and they check in and they're paying in the same time, you can do all of that in one screen. And so now they're all checked in and paid up at the same time. So it's just a little bit quicker way to get your front desk or your admins checking in players and paying people out. Less steps involved. You can do things all in one screen now. Tim, do you have any questions?
Not at this point. Most of the questions that came in, I've answered behind the scenes. So you're all good. You can continue.
Awesome.
Great job.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is we have added some enhancements around custom costs. So this is another project we've been working on for a little while. There were a lot of requests coming in from organizations where they wanted to be able to set contingencies to certain cost structures. So what I mean by that is X number of hours before a reservation, I want to change the price. Or on this specific day of the year, I want to change the price of my courts, maybe do holiday rates, or the last organization I worked at, on the 5th of the month one year, we offered courts at like 50% off or something like that, or free, or it was some highly discounted price. So now you can actually preset pricing ahead of time, or you can change costs depending on a certain amount of time before an event. So what you would do is you would go into create custom costs. You could also do this from the edit and just set all of your normal attributes and normal settings that you would normally set for custom costs. So one of the new things you'll see here is select custom dates. If you select custom dates, now you can go set specific days of the year that you would like to apply this custom cost to. The one I always use for this example is like holidays. You want to offer Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day all for free, or you want to set a special price all for those days of the year, you can do that. The next thing you can do here is if you have days of the week selected, you can select a date range. So if you want to say during this week of the year, or if you want to set some sort of seasonal rate, you could use this date range to set different rates based on a period of time. You can also, as you did before, set start and end times. So we just changed the UX of this a little bit. The window does look a little bit different than it did previously. And then you can apply custom costs when a reservation is. So here's the contingencies. So if it's a same day reservation, you can say that this court is going to be $5 for this membership, or you could say same day reservations are free. Certain number of days before, if you allow your membership to book courts after a certain period of time, some memberships do, if you book a court, if you're within 1 day of the reservation, then you get free time or something like that. So you can do it that way. You can also set rolling hours before. So if you have players that are basically 1 hour before, if the court's open, they get it for free. You could set this to 1 hour before, it could be free. So there are a lot of things that we can do around custom costs now that we couldn't do before. So maybe think about some of the ways that your membership was working around having to do different things because custom costs wasn't necessarily working that way. So now you can actually, there's a whole bunch of different things that we can do surrounding custom costs just with this additional setting here. All right, so moving on, the next thing we have to talk about is my bookings. So I'm going to drag another screen in here because I have an incognito set up. So we did a little bit of a redesign with the way my reservations, my events, and things like that were showing up. So we had separate lists for everything. And so we've gone in and we've created this new view called My Bookings. So now if you're on events and you go to My Events, or you're on Book a Court and you go to My Lessons or My Reservations, or if you're over in the menu and you go to your name and you go to My Bookings, you're going to get this landing page. Similar in view to the event list, you're going to have a filter over here on the left for every member in your family. So you can toggle on and off which family members you want to look at. You can also decide if you're going to show reservations, wait lists, events, things like that. If you go through a specific drop down like events, it's automatically going to filter based on events. You can add different filters here if you want from there. If you go through the My Bookings under the player information tab, it's going to show everything by default. So you can go through here and you can see the different reservation types or the different things that your family has upcoming. You can pay for them. If you've got the little icon here, you can hover over it and it shows how much is unpaid here for this person. And if your family members are part of the reservation or part of the event, they're going to show on here. So everybody shows on the one line if there's more than one person in the family that are part of the event. And again, you can click here and go pay for the event as well. All right. Tim, did we have any questions over the last few items that I covered?
We had one that you can answer. Can custom costs be used on membership fees?
So no, custom costs are not designed for membership fees. Right now, custom costs are designed for cost structures of courts. So you have your general cost structure for courts under this tab right here. This is all of your base pricing. Custom court costs allow you to go in and set contingencies to that pricing based on prime times or time of day or membership types and things like that. We also have a way for you to do custom guest costs as well. So you can set custom guest costs similar to how you would set court costs. But these custom costs are directed towards court fees or guest fees, not memberships. All right, so that was going to be the end until we jump into some leagues, things, and duper integration. So I will go ahead and jump into that now. So let me just close a couple of these tabs. All right. So with the about a week or two after we released that last release that we had in August, we did announce that. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want you to help a customer out.
Sure.
Nicole asked, it would be awesome if instead of events, we could call this clinics or instruction because we don't use events. Could you quickly just show everybody, in case they didn't know that, do you know how to do that?
I do know how to do that. You might have to help me. Is it a general information? Is it a general setting or is it a portal setting? I can't ever remember.
I believe it is, if you go to right there, alternate name for events, the very bottom.
Yep, here it is, right here.
Right there. So if you set that to clinic, then it would
Yeah.
change everything in your system to clinics. Or if you wanted to,
So here, I will show this to you again. So you're going to go to settings, general, and then scroll down here to the bottom. And I'm going to change this to clinics. And save. And then now everywhere in the system that I called something a event, it's now going to be called a clinic. So just be careful when you're making things plural. So let me take that F off, because we do automatically throw that in there for you. But yeah, so now everything in my system that was an event before is now going to be called a clinic. So even on the member side, that's going to affect the member side as well.
Great question, Nicole. I'm glad we could share that. Sorry, Kim. Sorry for this.
Absolutely.
That would be good for everybody to see.
All right, so let's talk about CourtReserve leagues. So I'm not going to dive into a full setup just on the leagues module. There's a lot to cover in that. We do have a great webinar that Tim did back mid-June when we were doing this in closed beta that we do have available if anybody would like to view it. I believe it's attached to the leagues documentation that's in the KV articles. If it's not, I will double check and make sure that it's there when this webinar is over. But I highly recommend checking out that webinar. If you want to enable the leagues module, it's going to be in your add-on section. Right now, the leagues module is free in beta until the end of this month. So if you have not had a chance to go in and start using leagues yet and clicking around and playing with it, seeing its capabilities, be sure you do that. As of October 1st, this will be a paid add-on. The pricing structure that we're doing for leagues is $1 per player per active league session. And so a league session is just where your players are, where you're able to set up different, almost like events, not really events, but different silos of registrations for players to go in. And then each session basically has its own league and standings behind it. So this is our leagues module. Once you enable the leagues module, it's over here on the left-hand side of the screen. Since it was released in closed beta, we've done many bug fixes and enhancements to this project. So if you haven't looked at it in a little while and you were looking at it previously, make sure you go check it out. We did put up a whole set of release notes in the release notes section just a few weeks ago. So if you have not had a chance to check that out, just go ahead and look at those too, because there's a lot of information in the release section versus or just about what we put out on that. So if you're looking at your leagues, this is really just an overview of what it looks like, but you can run different sessions, so you can group them by levels and things like that too. This is my test account, so it's not really going to be truly set up to how a club might normally operate a league. We do a lot of testing in the background on different things, but you'll create your session, you have players register, you schedule your game days, and then you actually will create matchups based on those game days. So, or based on the players that have opted in for the game day. Right now, the leagues module that we do have available is a flex league. So players can opt in weekly based on their schedule. And then you'll create groupings, and then players will enter scores, and we keep track of everything on a standings page for you as well. We do have some additional enhancements that are still in development on this. We're working on a public link that you can share for marketing purposes. So when players click on that link, they don't have to log in to see the information about the league. And then we also have a standings widget that we created in the one of the last releases, with the release we did with all the bug fixes for leagues. So you can post a widget and show those league standings in real time. Tim, anything else you want to add here about leagues? Or
do you want me, got a slew of questions just about timeline of other league formats. Would you like me to address that? Or would you like to?
Please.
Okay, so I'll real quickly do it. Guys, I know that you guys are all asking about team-based leagues, tennis leagues, time-based leagues. It's all coming, okay? We wanted to try to do this in phases. So the next thing that Kim and her team and the development team are going to be working on is team-based leagues. So we want you to be able to do 2-person leagues, 6-person teams, different configurations of lines. So if you're running a tennis leagues and you want to put your 3 doubles lines against another 3 double lines, you'll be able to set that up. For pickleball, if you want to do leagues where you just do 15-minute rotations and rotate, time-based leagues will be available. So all of that is coming. So I know that you guys are flooding the chat and questions, which is awesome about team-based leagues. As we progress through those, our goal is try as much as we can to get that out before the end of the year. That's our goal. Whether we meet that goal, it's a big take to bring team-based leagues on. So we're going to try our best to do that, but we'll keep you all in the loop as we got that coming down the pipe. So that's what I'll say. Unless Kim, you have anything to add?
Nope, I think that's perfect. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of feedback just around what everybody's looking for with leagues. And so we have a whole slew of different league types and everything like that still in development. So we're definitely working on it, and it'll be hopefully out for you soon.
One more thing,
yeah.
Kim, one question. I think you have this, but we have some folks that are a little, just need a little more clarification about the ranking algorithms within the Flex League.
Sure.
On what one up, one down means, or 5-person rotations. So I will, if that person, they're anonymous attendee when they ask the question. So if you can just let me know who you are, I can get our teams to get you some additional information and get you the webinar that I did that dove into the setup. And then we can also get you some written documentation to help you explain that information a little more clearly for you. Okay?
Yes. I am going to be updating some of that leagues documentation with some stuff, Tim, you and I talked about in the last few days on getting some of those format informations up there as well. So to those of you looking to for that information in those articles that is coming soon, I just have to add a couple lines of updates in there. All right. So yes, so we will post the webinar link to people that are interested in seeing it. We just have to figure out where we want to post it. It'll probably go within the KB articles. We just have to check a few places on where the best place we think to post that is. So all right, so I'm going to jump into Duper next, Tim, because I wanted to cover Duper and see if anybody has questions around just setting up their club for Duper. So we have announced our partnership with Duper. And so with that, right now, you can actually sync your Duper club to your CourtReserve account and bring in those player ratings. So what does that mean? So down here in the add-on section, we have made available our Duper integration. So this add-on is a $25 a month fee within your CourtReserve subscription. Once you enable it, unfortunately, we're not doing a beta period on this. So it is an immediate, just an immediate payment or immediate paid add-on once it's released. So within the setup, you're going to get to the Duper setup page. It's super easy to set up. Within your Duper account, you have a Duper club ID. Look to the KB article, the knowledge base article, for where to find that Duper club ID. It is a little bit hard to find because they don't publish it in full view where it says this is your Duper club ID. It is in your URL of your club. So you do have to go search for that. But once you add in your Duper club, and I don't have any members in here that are Duper players really, but so mine doesn't have a sync right now. But once you enable that Duper club ID on there, the system's automatically going to start running a search for your organization. And so it's going to look and it's going to match up players in your organization or players in your Duper organization based on first name, last name. It's going to skip players that are duplicate. It will give you an error that those players are duplicate. And then it's going to bring in the player's member ID. Or I'm sorry, it's going to bring in the player's Duper rating into their profile. So this is what we call a dynamic rating. You cannot change this rating. The system will do a sync to look for changes. And so as that player's Duper ID, or I'm sorry, Duper rating changes, it's automatically going to update in CourtReserve. So right now, as I mentioned, it is a one-way sync. We're just pulling this information from Duper, but we do already have in development a way. We're going to be syncing this 2 ways. So you'll be able to do Duper reservations, so entry for maybe scoring in matches and things like that, or we'll integrate this with our player matchmaker as well. So players will be able to create Duper matches within CourtReserve and upload that information to Duper to help to submit that for their Duper rating. We'll do the same thing with leagues. So it's all coming, it's all in development still, but we wanted to give you this piece first, so at least you could bring in this information now. Now, what can you do with this information? So right now it's available for use in leagues. You can also, when you do events, you can, I'm sorry, I went to the wrong thing because I changed it from events to clinics. So within events, you can also choose Duper as a rating in the event. So it's going to look for the rating restriction for duper in here as well. So you can say you want to look at duper ratings for doubles, put in that minimum and maximum that you're looking at. We're also, right now, we're not bringing in non-rated players. So if your player does not have a singles or doubles rating, they're not going to sync right now, but we're working on in development right now, syncing those players with an NR. So you can actually include them in these events if you are doing restrictions based on duper. So you can use these different rating restrictions with duper. Again, this is a dynamic rating. It's not editable through CourtReserve. So if I actually go in here to my custom ratings, I have a line here for duper, but I can't do anything with it because it's just for the syncing purpose. So it says dynamic. You can't add ratings to this. You can't go in and change player ratings on the fly. You can only sync the data and pull the data from duper right now. So we do have a manual linking process. So if you have a player that doesn't match, let's say you have 2 Tim Owens in your system and it doesn't know which Tim Owens to assign the duper ID to, you can actually go in here and you can manually link this player's account. So what you would do is you would just click link duper account, paste in the player's duper information. Just keep in mind this is a case sensitive entry. So if you do have a duper uses uppercase, if you do have lowercase, it's going to give you an error. But when you do link it, you'll get that successful link message. Again, it's looking at the player's first name and last name. So if the player's first name is not exactly as it is listed in their duper profile, it's not going to match. Same with the last name. So, you can update the player's name to match, or the player can update their duper account to match what they have in CourtReserve. But if you're not getting successful linkings, it's most likely because that first name and last name don't match what's in the player profile of duper. I had one that I solved this morning with our CS team where the player had 2 last names. So in duper, they actually had one of their last names in the first name field. So it wasn't linking, even though it looked exactly the same in CourtReserve as it did in duper. I just took one of the players, I took the player's last name and moved it to their first name field, and the player linked right up. So just keep in mind, it is looking exactly for how the first name and last name fields are entered. And if it doesn't match completely, it's not going to have a successful link. So just keep that in mind. If you have any questions, or if you have you're running into trouble getting anything linked, just let our support team know. But we do also have an article in the knowledge base that goes through every step of this for you as well. Tim, are there any questions around duper, or is there anything there you wanted to add as well?
Yeah, I do want to mention a couple things. One, this is like Kim said with leagues. This is something that we want to continue. We're going to continue to evolve this feature on the product side. One of the things that Duper recently done is give us a better way to allow players to sort of authenticate themselves from the Duper account, so that the linking could be made easier and the player could do it themselves. So we're going to be looking at implementing that, and then obviously auto score submission from the league side to get these players scores in easily from you to enrich the feature. As far as the sync, somebody asked a question: how do you have a timeline to get the sync once a day? Kim, isn't the sync once a day now already in place?
Right now, it's actually I want to say it's on an hourly schedule. So it is running it is fetching the data from duper on your initial sync hourly. So it might take up to an hour for those members to sync into your account. And then after that, I believe it's also happening on the hour if any changes happen. So like if you have somebody's first and last name that didn't match up, you don't have their duper ID handy, but you know how to update their name, that will pick up you most likely within the next hour as well. So it is running on an hourly sync. So most of the time, it's not going to be changing that much, because most of the time your duper ratings probably not changing every hour, but it will change. Will pick up those small changes and those differences if you have anybody that you're uploading or that you're editing manually or anything like that. And then there is also a question in here about, does dynamic mean the ratings stay up to date in real time? Yes, so in real time, it will stay up to date. So as it changes in duper, it's going to change in CourtReserve. Again, there's an hourly sync that's happening in here. One thing to keep in mind is right now, if a player is already registered for an event or a league and their duper rating matched the rating required at the time of the registration, we don't have anything in the system right now that's going to flag them or unregister them. So if you do have players' ratings that are changing quite frequently, that's just something to keep in mind. If you do not want to allow them to continue in that league or that event, you would just need to have a manual cancellation process behind that.
The player's duper rating, will a player's duper rating, you'll have to answer this, Kim, because I don't know the answer. Will a player's duper rating be visible right now to other players in the member pool?
That is a good question. I would have to go check on that. We can let you know on that. Do we have the person's name? We can
certainly. It's Jeff. Yeah, I will get back with Jeff. And if that's not the case, I know that we can create a member group based on Duper, and we will check with our development team, and that is a fantastic, and much needed, because we already show the current ratings, I believe, but. Anyway, that's a good call out, and we will get you that answer. And if we don't do it,
I want to say, since it's not editable, we can't display it on the member grid. Probably not from here, but you could do it based on another member if you created another member group. So I will just have to go check on that and just to see the best way to do that for sure.
Okay, great question, Jeff.
I did also want to say a couple things we still have in development surround just. We've had a couple questions come up. What if I find that I'm not linked to the right player? There is a very, very, very small percentage chance that you're not going to link to the right player, but we do realize it probably could happen. Right now, we do have a process in place that we have in development where we're going to have an unlink button in here next to the player's duper rating. We're also going to expose their duper ID number so you can see what that ID number is and confirm if it's the correct player that's in your duper environment or not. Okay, so that is coming as well. And then we have some additional just nuances with the sync happening too that are still in development. And so again, the NR rating is coming. We'll be pulling that information as well. So that's about all I've got here, Tim, unless there's anything else that you think we should add.
No, they answered all the questions that I could. It's a clean slate, did a great job. I think we can let these folks go. And we will catch them again on our next What's New in CourtReserve webinar next month.
All right. Thanks, everyone. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to send them to our chat support, and we'll be happy to take care of them there if anything pops up. Okay. Have a great day.